Hello cookies, it's Iri. I'm back and I'm actually starting a series called Nomad Life because I noticed that every time I meet new people, they tend to get interested in the fact that I've traveled quite a lot and that I've lived in 4 different countries in the last 8 years, planning my 5th country, so hopefully I will have 5 before I reach 9 years of changing countries. So the first episode today is basically about the pros and cons of constantly changing countries. Now, I don't consider myself a digital nomad like all of them that you see on YouTube and that write blogs because I don't change countries as often. At least the digital nomads that I have seen change countries pretty often. And like I said, I've lived in 4 countries in the last 8 years, so I don't change every month or every second month. I actually move there, find an apartment, study. I've studied in all countries, actually studied and work in all of them. The number one pro is that you learn to adapt really quickly to new social settings, to new things that are happening to your life. You're basically a chameleon. For example, in Madagascar, we put on our shoes indoors. When you have guests, they wear their shoes indoors, and I know that in France it's the same thing. But then moving to Singapore, I noticed that when you go visit someone there, you don't wear your shoes and you take them off. And I think the first time I thought, wow, I don't really like it, but it's more because I wasn't sure that my socks were matching or maybe they had holes, so I felt a little bit uncomfortable. But I just thought, oh, okay. And then I just got really quickly used to it. And then moving to Malta, I wanted to remove my shoes to visit an apartment that I wanted to rent. And then there they said, no, you can keep your shoes, even though my shoes were a little bit muddy. So I thought, okay, whatever. And then moving to Sweden, there you remove your shoes as well. And I was just like, it's okay. So basically, even though that's just a small example and it might not be a big thing, the fact that you just accept things as they're served to you without like, oh no, but that's not how you do in my country. Oh, that's horrible. That's so disrespectful. Or, you don't get overly crazy about new things. You just go, okay, that's what people do here, it's okay, so you adapt yourself really quickly. The number one pro that I've heard many people talk about, of course, is that you leave your loved ones back home, your friends and your family. For me personally, I've always wanted to leave Madagascar, and honestly, I don't really have anything back there. I would say that I would really miss. So for me, it has never been a problem really, but I know that for most people, if you have family and friends that you really like, you'll probably miss them. The second pro that I wrote on my list is that you learn a new language, and that has to be my absolute favorite pro of constantly moving. Before I moved to Singapore, I could not speak English, as in I knew like basic stuff, I guess, very few words, but I couldn't speak fluently when I was 17. And I was just thrown into the new environment. So of course I had to learn quickly how to learn the language. And then there as well, people speak Mandarin. Some people do actually. And I studied Mandarin intensively for 6 months, and I could practice as well there. So I got some basics of Mandarin. Of course, I forgot everything now, but I will get back to it. And I know that since I already have 6 months of intensive training at a school, in my head, it's gonna come back really quick. So I'm happy about that. Moving to Malta, I didn't really learn Maltese because they speak English, so I didn't need to learn Maltese even though I wanted to, but the courses I found were really expensive. And moving to Sweden, of course, I learned Swedish, so I now speak Swedish fluently. I studied in Swedish partly, and then I also worked in Swedish, and I can do basically everything in Swedish. So that is one thing that I really love about moving countries, and it's one of my top goals actually when I move to a new country. It's better if it's a country that doesn't have English as a main language or any language that I already speak, because then I learn something new. Number 2 cons is more or less the same as the first one. It's that you get homesick, and when I say homesick, now I don't even include family and friends anymore. I mean, maybe you miss the building, maybe you miss the vibe. Let's say you grew up in NYC. You might miss the hustle and bustle of New York. You might miss some smells like Central Park in spring or things like that. So you miss the buildings, you miss the environment, you miss the parks. you miss how the air smells, etc. For me, I've never really felt homesick because I don't consider Madagascar my home that much in terms of home. It's my homeland and I love it and I'm from there. But in terms of like, you know, that home cozy feeling of like where I really belong, I'm not quite sure where I really feel like this is where I belong yet, actually. But hopefully I might be on the right path to finding where I belong. But I'm gonna tell you about that in the future. Another pro is that you get a deeper cultural experience than when you just traveling. Of course, traveling is amazing and you learn a lot. I mean, traveling is the best thing ever. At least that's what I believe. But personally, and John says the same thing, when you travel, of course, you go on holiday, you tour some famous places, you see, you know, Rome, Greece, you see la Statue de la Liberté. My brain just kind of froze, so I couldn't get the name in English, but I put a photo here so you know what I'm talking about. So of course you see those things and you learn a lot from the guide and you learn from seeing things, from seeing what people do. But the deeper cultural experience of everyday life and how people really behave, I feel like you really get that when you live in a country, because you live in the country, you experience everything from the normal daily things as how people take the bus, do they queue, do they not queue, do people pay cash here, do they have a card, do they have a 3-course meal, because some countries don't. Some countries actually have 6-course meals, but they're really tiny. Those things, those everyday things that you get when you live in another country, I think that's really priceless, because then you really know and understand another culture. The third cons is that you have to find new favorite products in each country. And I'm not just talking about beauty products, because you can order those online. Some of them, I guess, depending on where you live, they don't ship there. So I know that some favorite websites of mine that ship to Singapore did not ship to Sweden or Malta. Some shipped to Malta but did not ship to Sweden. None of them ever shipped to Madagascar. You know the struggle. You know what I mean? If you live in Madagascar, you know no one ships there. So sometimes you can get shipping, but I mean, even just your favorite cleaning product for the toilet. Yes, it's very boring. But in Singapore, I used to have my favorite one. Moving to Sweden, I thought, okay, that one in Singapore really worked, but I don't know if that one would work. And, you know, for example, when you move to Malta, let's say you have your favorite hair pills to make your hair grow longer, and then you can't find them when you're in Singapore. So you basically have to constantly find new products, new favorite places, a new favorite restaurant, a new favorite bakery, a new favorite everything. So that is a little bit annoying, I guess, for me. I guess some people might find it exciting, but I like my routine. Believe it or not, even though I like moving countries, I still like having some kind of routine. A pro that is really important to me, there's a fly there. Oh no, it's not a fly, it's a freaking mosquito, and I think it bit me. Hey! Sorry about that. Another pro that is really important to me is that it keeps your brain fresh. The brain is like a muscle. You can train it or you can just let it sleep. And there are many studies that show that when you learn a new language, you push the years of Alzheimer, meaning that if you were supposed to get Alzheimer at 50 years old, I don't know really what age you're supposed to get Alzheimer. There's a giant mosquito killing me here. If you're supposed to get it at 50, maybe by learning a new language, you get it when you're 60. If you learn to go skydiving when you're 55, maybe you push the Alzheimer to 65. And there are many other diseases like that, and dementia, and many other brain diseases. I'm checking my notes. It's not like I'm texting anyone. I know it looks like I am, but I'm checking my notes. So read those studies if you don't believe me, but the more you train your brain, the fresher it's going to be even when you age. So moving to a new country is definitely strong exercising for your brain, and it's going to be super freaking tough. Next con is that you have annoying paperwork every single freaking time. Now, I'm from Madagascar. My passport is a Malagasy passport, and it's one of the worst passports you could ever get. No jokes. I love my country again, because I know some Malagasys are gonna get mad, but it's true. Ask any Malagasy that travels a lot, And I know many of them, we all complain about the same thing. Visas, paperwork, it gets tougher for everything. For example, John, as a European citizen, gets free healthcare in many European countries. I don't get any. I don't get free healthcare except from in Sweden, but anywhere else like Malta, when I lived in Malta, no free healthcare. I have to pay. John gets it for free. For example, if you are a UK citizen or a Commonwealth country, you have some kind of treaty with Australia, so you also get some discount on some things. I'm not sure if it's healthcare, but you know what I mean. And of course, if you have one of those good passports, the best passports, if you have the German passport, the Swedish passport, the American, Australian, and all of them, you basically have way less paperwork than if you have a Malagasy passport, because I have to do so much paperwork, and even John dreads it every time we have to travel or we have to move to another country. So paperwork, I freaking hate it. I know I should be used to it, but I still passionately freaking hate paperwork related to visa. I need a visa for all freaking countries, and I need paperwork, and I need extra insurance paper, and I need this and that. I'm not gonna start renting here because I'm getting passionate and I'm already sweating like crazy because it's really hot in here and there's no aircon. I'm freaking dying. It's 35 degrees. No joke. I promise you it's 35 degrees. The next pro is that you get an insight of different business practices. And that is something that is very valuable if you plan to move abroad as a manager, director, COO, maybe a new CEO or something of companies, or if you want to be a regional, like a regional manager. For example, if you manage the whole Europe for a big bank and you want to move to Asia, manage the whole Asia, because different continents and different countries have different business practices and different ways they work. For example, in Madagascar and Singapore, the way I got my jobs working for MTV, working for a really big Singaporean company. In Madagascar, I had lots of part-time jobs in many different areas. In Madagascar and Singapore, how I sold myself, I'm like, I'm the best, you need me working for your company, because I am the best at doing what you want me to do, and I'm a hard-working person, I'm a perfectionist, and I will get the stuff done, and I'm very positive, very sure of myself, and I'm telling them I am the best, you know, kind of with a good stance. I am the best, not so rigid with the neck though. In Sweden, that failed miserably the first 2 times, and that's when I noticed by Googling and talking to people, it's the opposite. In Sweden, if you want to get a job, you have to be humble, you have to talk about your flaws, you have to play it on the down low. So if you brag, I wasn't bragging in Madagascar or Singapore, but I was showing that I could do things, that I was motivated. In Sweden, it's the opposite. You do that, you're not going to find a job there. I realized that if I wanted a job, I had to be like, yes, I'm kind of good at makeup. Yes, I'm more or less good with customers. Of course, I could always improve because I definitely have lots of flaws. Bang! I got the jobs. I really did. I got all the jobs I wanted to get in Sweden. My dream jobs, I got them. In Singapore, there are many jobs for a huge manager with a 6-figure salary. They always say that if you have experience working on different continents, in different countries, they like it because then you know how to manage an international team and how to deal with people from different places. It is hard to build lasting friendships. This is something that you see if you read blogs of people living abroad, expats, and they know that their contract is maybe a 2-year contract, a 3 years contract. They're teaching. I've seen many people teaching in Japan that said the same thing, or Singapore, working in Sweden on a short contract for some fashion brands because there are many Swedish fashion brands, or expats from France working in Madagascar just for 4 years. It's really hard to build friendships. And even for me, I noticed that I tend not to really want to invest in friendships because I know I will be leaving. I don't know if I'm leaving in 1 year, in 6 months, or in 4 or 5 years, But ultimately, I know that I will be leaving. I don't feel like it's worth investing a lot in a relationship, friendship that will last maybe just 6 months and then I will lose that person. The best way to build friendship is through time. Only time will tell whether your friend will stick by your side or not when you have good and bad times. Time will strengthen your bond just the same as when you have a cat. If I don't have time to stay with that person, we're not going to have time to become best friends, and that is a little bit sad actually. And the last pro of today, even though I still have many of them, but let me know in the comments down below if you want a second video of pros and cons of constantly moving and changing countries, is that life never gets boring. That is amazing. I like when things move, I like when things change. I'm a very curious person. I want to learn it all, I want to see it all. I'm interested in everything. You tell me about food, I'm like, yes, tell me more. You tell me about astronomy, I'm telling you to tell me more. You're telling me about science, computers, tell me more. You're telling me about worms. Tell me more. Just tell me more, show me everything so that I know it, because I love everything, I guess. I mean, not everything, of course, but I love learning about everything. And by changing countries, learning new things, even doing paperwork, stressing about if you get a visa, this and that, life never gets boring because you just don't have the time to be bored. There's so much things to learn, to do, to fix, to figure out, that you don't get bored. So if you rest less and you have lots of energy and you feel like, I don't like a normal paced life, then it's the lifestyle for you, because life never gets boring. Sometimes I feel like I wish it were a bit quiet for a while so that I breathe, because I'm always like, but it's really a lot of fun. And that's the end of this video. I hope you cookies enjoyed it. If you did, please leave me a thumbs up and subscribe if you don't want to miss the upcoming video. Like I said, let me know in the comments down below if you want part 2, because there are still many pros and cons, but I didn't want this video to be 2 hours long. And then I can also take some sweat break where I can just wipe my sweat off my forehead. And until next time, I will see you cookies at the next video. Bye bye.